Hi, everyone. Don Famularo here, Mapex All Access. The excitement continues. I've got with me Reggie Reg Johnson. Thanks so much for talking, Reg.
Absolutely. It's great to be here with you, Dom. The great Don Famularo is a better artist and a better drummer to get interviewed by today. So I'm excited, man. I'm very excited.
Oh, man. Thanks so much, Reg. Well, I'll tell you something. When I had met you at the Mapex anniversary event that we had, it was just so great the fact that we had a chance to talk. And listen, you are doing some great things. When I watch you playing on the internet, your pocket is just so deep. Your groove, musically, you understand the depth of where that song is out to play for the song. But you have got an endless bag of chops that just goes on forever. Really,
I appreciate it, man. You know, for me, you know, the fact that you said that, I really appreciate that, and that means a lot because you've been doing this for a long time, and I even watch some of your videos and some of the people that you have interviewed, and you interviewed some legends and some greats. So for you to say that, you know, that just makes me believe that I am moving in the right direction to keep this music thing of drums that we call life going on. You know, so I'm excited to definitely hear that great compliment from you, man. So I really appreciate that.
You know, Reg, you have earned that, and you've earned it because not only are you moving in the right direction, but you're leading the direction. I think that's an important part to understand. You're setting some real core values of you know, where the future of drumming is going, how to play through the music. I mean, whatever type of music you're playing, you're in the heart of it, and that is something where, you know, young players like yourself, you guys are the next generation. So this is fantastic and inspiring to see.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said that, Don, because for also, you know, me being from Washington, D.C., you know, we have our own style and genre of music, which is called gogo. And so that thing, that keyword you said, pocket, like that was kind of instilled in us from the beginning into now, because if you listen to gogo music, you listen to a pocket for 45 minutes and literally they're not going to move. It's just going to be a groove that's going to have the people dancing. So I think when I look at it from that standpoint and I adapt that to other genres of music, I still tap back into my go-go roots, knowing, like, you know, it all goes and it all applies to all genres of music, because you have to understand, in R&B you're going to play pocket, in gospel you're going to play pocket, in jazz is pocket, and hip hop is pocket. So, you know, when you translate that and put what go-go taught me into those genres, you know, I just, discipline was the number one thing that I learned when coming up, and I think that's really what helped me, you know, develop that style.
Boy, that really is I'm glad you mentioned that, because you come across, you know, in your playing as a very disciplined person and a very organized, you know, person that really kind of understands the plan of what you're going to play. So let's talk about the go-go style. The go-go style, how did that begin, and when did that start?
So I was probably about, I want to say 14 or 15. Well, I've been hearing go-go all my life, but when I started playing, I was around 14, 15, and the first band that I played with was a gospel go-go band called Ten Commandments. And I was just getting out of middle school, going into high school. I had an opportunity to meet the guy who was in the leader of the band, and he said, "Hey, man, you want an opportunity to play some go-go?" And for me, it was exciting because that's what I grew up listening to, you know. So to have the opportunity, but also to be coming out of church and to play with a gospel go-go band, it was the best of both worlds, you know what I mean? So I'm still getting the gospel side, but I'm also getting the go-go side. So it's like, you know, that's when that started. And then it just moved on to actual more local bands around in the DC area. I started playing with a band called OP Tribe, which is more like they were more like on the other side of go-go. It wasn't gospel. It was like what you go listen to on a normal weekend night, you know. And so I learned from that side too. And so, you know, like I said, just being around drummers who also instilled that, and watching them as coming up, because as we can go back, because I have a lot of history on my family side that I was around music all my life, but just in drummers in general, I had guys like Paul Buggy Edwards, to Tim Steele, to a guy named Stomp Dog, to a guy named Quickfoot, Kenny Quickfoot, you know. So I broke it up in different genres of drummers that I want to patent so much of what they was doing to apply to my plan. You know what I'm saying? Still be myself, but watch what they was doing to kind of see their approach.
And these are all drummers in the Washington area?
Yes, sir.
Boy, very interesting. But I'm talking about now, just let's go back a little earlier, the beginning stage of playing drums, when you got involved in playing, what inspired you, And when did you first kind of get into playing drums, you know, with a full kit?
Fun fact, as my parents would tell me, I started when I was 2 years old. I'm now 34. So, you know, compared to you, I've been playing 32 years, but you know, to you, that's like yesterday, you know. So but yeah, so I started when I was 2, and the musically inclined side comes from both sides of my family, but more so my mom. My dad, he's a music lover, but my mom is more so the musician. So, you know, just growing up around my grandmother and my mother, my aunt, and my uncle, rest in heaven, who he was a great singer, you know, and I was really with him a lot because he had a gospel group that I would go as a kid to go watch his rehearsals. So I would always be excited to go see rehearsals, to see different drummers, just go play and just learn from watching, you know, because it was a different upbringing for me of just learning music. So my learning came from more of going to concerts, gospel concerts, watching different drummers, seeing how they, you know, how they play, how they set up, you know, and things like that. So yeah, I say around like the age of 2 years old is when the gift was given to me, and I really started taking a heavy interest into it.
So there were a lot of live bands to go down and hear at that time.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, from gospel to go-go to R&B. You know, we DC had a lot of musicians that had things going on that each week or each weekend you were going to something. So that was the good thing about being in the DC area, especially when I was young, because like I said, my mom was a singer. She sung with a lot of gospel artists. So if I wasn't going, you know, to a concert, I would be with her going to a rehearsal or to a show that she was doing, and still meeting countless musicians. So yeah,
how great that your mom was that influenced in music and that could guide you along the way. What a gift that is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. To this day, she does so many different things outside of music. She inspires me to tap out inside my other gifts, because I also can sing. So now I'm tapping more into, like, I'm trying to do more of singing and writing and producing and arranging and you know, recording and stuff like that. So, you know, it's a continued learning process each day, man. And I'm happy that I can say that I'm doing that.
Well, this is great that you're tapping into these skills, Reg. This is so incredible. So what kind of music was around the household that your mom was listening to that you were hearing when you were young?
It was a lot of gospel, but then it was also a lot of like Mahalia Jackson.
Right.
She took it back to like Mahalia Jackson, or like, but it was more so gospel, and then like I said, R&B came towards more my dad's side, because he's a music lover. So my dad listened to everything under umbrella you could think of. That's where, like, you know, the love of listening to music more so came from, because he would listen to, I'm talking about CDs, countless CDs in his car that I can pick up and just put in anything, and it was like, okay, I'm learning something new. You know what I'm saying? So that's where that side of the love of music came from.
Boy, we say, Reg, that's the perfect storm, you know, because what you've got is your mom's influence of singing, where you've got that gift where you're hearing that Mahalia Jackson. You're talking about some serious music. And when your dad is an active listener, which is what we as musicians need to do, we have to find the balance of performing and practicing and listening to all this great music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think listening is what started, because let me tell you this, Dom, I didn't learn how to read until I got to college.
Interesting.
And so, because my high school was fairly new, so the music program wasn't like an established high school where, you know, been around for 30 plus years. So my learning was different from a lot of musicians that I know, you know, because it was more so the listening first. Then I got the reading in college, and then the knowledge of what I was listening to all came together, you know. And so I was like, and I'm actually kind of glad that it happened this way, or how it played out for whatever reason, because it was like, what I'm listening to, like, I know what I'm listening to, but when I read it now, I understand the terminology of what I'm listening to. So it just all, you know. And so, you know, some people came up reading, and some people came up, you know, reading and listening. But for me, it was like, I kind of had the best, in my eyes, I had the best of both worlds, because if you listen and you watch, you can also, okay, I have this aspect now, but now when I read, I can understand this is what I was watching. And so it comes together, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I would say, you know, that kind of helps.
That really is a huge advantage. And for that exact reason, when you have the art of actually playing and you're playing it, when it comes to reading, all you're doing with reading is taking those notes on that page and acknowledging this is what you're playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's like a word association. So when you first started to read, how did you begin the reading process? How did that start?
So it started a little bit in high school with like a piano book. Started out in piano, and then when I got to college, my first college was Hampton University, and I had a drum instructor there who I had private lessons with, and
Nice.
I would read. Actually, it's funny that you said that. This is one of the first books that I had to buy.
Podemsky, man, that's a fantastic.
Yeah. This is one of the first books I had to buy to kind of look. And when I first got it, it was like reading a whole new language. Like I was reading Spanish or Japanese or something. You know, it was like, what is this? So it was like, for me, it was like, okay. And so once I had those couple lessons, and it started to make more sense of like what a quarter note is and what a whole note is, and the eighth note, 16th, 32nd, you know, dotted notes and all that stuff. When I started to get the terminology of theory, it started to make more sense. And it didn't come to me as easy because as like I said, I didn't learn into college. So, you know, it's like trying to get on a bike when you didn't start as a kid, and you have to get, you know, do it more. And then do it more, it started become a repeated in your head. So it came to me around that stage at Hampton University, and then I transferred and went to Howard, which was great because my dad works at Howard, and so for that to happen and to go from a school at Hampton to Howard, which is known for music, it really was a blessing, man.
So so you go to the second school, you're taking lessons with this teacher. So he's taking you through, I guess, fundamental rudiments, and you're doing fundamentals with him, and then you're working on everything also. So you probably had a little bit of everything.
Yeah, well, see, I didn't start on kit. I started strictly on snare. So they wanted to retract back and break down just the basics and just use snare, because I'm coming literally from I never was in a marching band. You know, I never played snare on the drum line or anything like that. I'm coming from kit to right back to snare. So when you break it down to the basics, it's like that's all you have to focus on. You know, I didn't have no synths, I didn't have no toms I had to worry about, no kick, no any hi-hats, nothing like that. So my main focus was just to really understand what I'm reading and also how to approach it on the snare, with dynamics. So I had to learn that, you know, and it's funny because dynamics for me, before even learning what dynamics was, we played that coming up in church. You know, if you know anything about church, when it's time for them to pray, the band is still playing, but we're playing at a low volume. So from birth, I know what dynamics is, but I don't understand the knowledge and the terminology until I get to college. You understand? So I reflect back and be like, okay, I was already doing this, but now I'm learning what it actually the terminology is. Like, play with some dynamics. It's like, okay, and now it makes more sense. You know, once you start learning those things and getting them to where you feel comfortable of knowing, like, okay, yeah, this is what it is. This is what it makes, you know. So yeah.
But what a great you know, way to learn that way. So talk about going back to the church days when you were playing at the church. What was that like? I mean, because some of the bands that I hear in the churches are incredible.
Yeah, man.
I mean, really serious.
Yeah, no, it really it's really a great thing to say that churches is really what developed not only the ear for gospel, but it applies, like I said earlier, to R&B, to hip hop, because the arrangements that church musicians have now, they approach it like they're getting ready for a show. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like, you know, I started playing at church when I was like 12 years old. You know, and so it was a different approach for me back then, because I'm just happy to play drums. You know what I mean? But as I got older and going more into college, and I started playing more in church, I started meeting more different musicians. Like I said, I was in church in Hampton, or I was in the school in Hampton. So I had a church in Hampton. I meet different musicians. Everybody's approach was different, though. Everybody had a different approach, which made it more excited to play, because you're not playing the same thing, or you're not playing with the same musicians every week. And then when you are starting to play with the same musicians every week, you build that chemistry to understand, like, what is going to be this week, how we're going to approach the music. Because now, at first, it was just straight live. Now everybody is using either Ableton or Logic or Pro Tools to like run tracks at church. We didn't have that when I was coming up. You were straight out the gate, straight live. You played it just like how you heard on the record, you know. But now you have these different things of Ableton and Logic that you could program, and it's like it kind of handicapped the drum a little bit. I feel like it kind of handicapped it, because we listen to what the drums are playing, and then we try to do every chop in the book around that because we feel we're so safe with that track in the background. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
for me, it was a different approach. That's why that pocket came up, because I couldn't do all that back then because there was nothing to play behind. I had to play with the bass player, I had to play with the choir, I had to play, you know what I'm saying, with the whole band. So it was like that. That's what really made me understand, like, okay, churches is been a little bit different now, but I still love it because that's
Yeah.
you know that's my roots, and it's always fun. So yeah.
But what a great upbringing, man! You just to have that music around you at that particular point and playing all the time. So your first international tour is 2008.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
So that came about. I was at Howard at this time, and I used to play with the Howard Gospel Choir, and
Right.
we had just did a spring tour because on spring break, you know, on each year we take spring break, and each spring break that we took a spring tour. We was on a spring tour, and so right after the tour that we did, I had as a musician in DC. He came up to school one day and was like, "Hey, I'm ready to go on tour with Ernest Pugh. You know, you think you want to do this tour?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." You know, and at that time, I don't know if you know who Ethan Farmer is and Jamie Gamble. They had just did his gospel record in DC. So he had just did a recording, and now it was promo time. So the album had just came out. It was a good album. Mike Burrell was the MD and the producer of it. And so right after that, he was like, "Yo, I got to do a promo tour. I want to see if you're interested." And I'm like, "Absolutely." So in 2008, I got the opportunity to go to Italy for about a month to do the first tour with Ernest Pugh in 2008.
What was that like? But all of a sudden now you're on a plane, you're going to Italy, different country, different language, whole different experience. This is when you put your big boy pants on, right?
Dom, let me tell you, it was one of the most fun experiences I've had. You know, for my first time going overseas. But when I got back to the States, when I tell you I didn't want any pasta, any pizza, any lasagna, I didn't want any of that for about a whole 2 months, bro. I was so overwhelmed and done with Italian food, and Italian is one of my favorite food. But I had so much of it because you've traveled countless times. You know, when you go have a meal, they feeding you 3 times before you get to your 4-course meal. So I was like, what is happening right now? You know, I'm taking all this in as a young kid, young adult, like, yo, okay, is the entree coming yet? No, we have one more appetizer. I'm like, wow, okay. So, and I love Italian food, but the experience of working with him over there was amazing. We played at some amazing places. I got to sightsee. You know, I was excited because I got to travel and with the band and just go see different things and some people in the choir. And like I said, the food was amazing. But it was just a great opportunity to have that experience first as a tour and to be overseas internationally. You know.
Yeah.
So,
what an eye opener! And your point is so well taken. You go to a country and you want to enjoy the culture, but it's overwhelming. The food, the language, and then the history that's there.
Yes.
You know, when you see all this, you know, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 year old history, it's pretty amazing to take that much in for someone young, man. What a great first time experience. How long was that tour? How long were you in Italy for?
We was in Italy for a month, so it was literally right around the holidays. It was in the beginning of December, all the way to the top of the New Year. So it was like in the beginning of December, and then we got back, like, I want to say, like the first couple of days after 2009 in January. So we was there for about a month. About a month, and it was like that's why, like you said, from the history to the food to the language, I was able to all take it in and really like learn. You know, not only play and be over there for work, but I was also able to learn about the history and learn about the different foods, because Italian was one of my favorite foods before I even was even asked to go to Italy. You know, like me and my mom used to go to this spot in DC every Friday just to go have like some lasagna, pizza, spaghetti, whatever it was we had a taste for. We was going to get some Italian food. So to know that I was going to Italy and I was going to have the option to have one of my favorite foods, it was like, oh man, this is a great opportunity to actually go see what the real Italian is, you know, how they make it over there. So it was a good overall month of learning history and playing music, you know, with Ernest Pugh and how
are the Italian crowds? How was the Italian audiences and how they responded?
They really they received him like almost like he's been over there before. Like
Wow.
it was some people who was kind of trying to figure out who he was, but the people that did know, he was received very well. And like I
Wow.
said, he had just put out a gospel album, and so at that time it was a lot of promo and a lot of pushing for that record to be pushed overseas and in the States. So it was received very, very well for us to be over there at that time.
Wow, fantastic. So you come back, and now were you still in school at that time when you came back?
I was in school. Yeah, I was in school, and then I was finishing up my last year at Howard, and then right after my last year, that's when I had moved out here to LA. Moved out to LA in 2009.
So you make the move out to LA. What made you make the move to LA? What was that in LA?
I always looked at LA and New York. New York was going to be one of my options, but me being in DC, growing up in DC, I love the cold, and I know New York is one of the places like that LA would have the Atlanta opportunity, but I wanted to drive. I didn't want to be on the public transportation. I did that already, been in DC, in LA you can't beat the weather. But also for me, it was like it's the Atlanta opportunity. You can it's countless opportunities out here for you to work, and so that's what really made me make that decision to come to LA. Besides the weather, it was just the opportunities was very endless.
Fantastic. So you get to LA. So what was the next opportunity you had? Was Macy Gray the first next step?
Macy Gray was my first national act, my big first national act when I came to LA, and that was in 2012. And
Nice.
I did an audition for her. I knew one of the background singers. She had a private audition. I got a call for that. I came in, and it was actually down to it was like a drum off. Like you remember the drum off before all these things was going off, and so it was like down to the 4 final drummers. And I didn't even. The funny thing is, I didn't even get the gig at first, Dom. It was 4 drummers. Then it came down to me and this other guy, and he ended up getting a call, and he did a couple of gigs, and I literally would never forget this. I'm driving back from somewhere, and I'm about to take the exit, and I get a call from the MD. He's like, "Hey man, are you still available for da 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 da?" And I'm like, I'm looking at the phone like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah, this is these are the details, these are the dates," and I'm like, "Yeah, we just did this like 2 weeks ago." So that turned into from 2012, and I was with her for almost like 2 years.
So the original drummer didn't work out for whatever reason.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I ended up still getting a call, and it came out to me and him at the end of the day anyway. So I guess they just felt like, well, since we already had the other drummer that was available, let's just see if he's still available. And he called me, and I was.
Boy, fantastic. So now you got to go and you got to learn the tunes. What was it? How many songs did you have to learn for her before you started going on tour?
Ooh. So can you see this book right here? This is the set list right here.
Oh man, check this out. This is the booklet that you had. Just show us the book and how creative this was. This
is called the Mace book. She called it. It's like Facebook, but it's called the Mace book because it's about her. And then you open it up a little bit, you see across the first pages it's her, and then the second page has all the places that we went to on this tour, on this world tour. It's called.
Boy, look at this! Holy mackerel! So where'd you go? Bucharest, Istanbul, Athens. Unbelievable.
Yeah. So imagine a kid coming from DC, of course, and my first international tour was in 2008. But then my first national outside of being in gospel was Macy Gray, and then I go on a world tour back overseas. So all these places. So it's like, man, and not only am I excited, but I get to go to like Tokyo, Seoul, London, Amsterdam, Budapest, Istanbul, Athens, Greece. I'm like, what better way can for you to go work, but also get to history? It goes back to that thing of history again, to learn history of all these different countries, and so
now you get to Tokyo, and now you're talking about the Italian food. Now you're getting hit with sushi, right?
Absolutely. And see, I like cooked sushi though, Dom. I'm not one of the raw guys. I haven't hopped on that boat yet, So cooked sushi like the tempura. The tempura for me is more my way, but I do love sushi when it comes to the tempura. So absolutely, it was just great time just to tap into different cultures of food and history in all these different places.
And on that tour was also Brazil.
Brazil was on this tour. Yes.
So Brazil, the food in Brazil, they like a lot of meat. I mean, there's tons of meat in Brazil. So what you're experiencing is, aside from the musical journey, you're getting hit now with culture from every corner of the world now.
And believe it, Don, back then I was about 300 pounds more heavier. So it was just like no holds bar. I was eating everything under the sun. Whatever it was, I was going to try it out if it looked good. Let me say that.
Hey, even in Greece, the Greek food there is fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, so I used to call it a gyro, but it's called a euro, right?
Euro, yeah.
And I went back to this place like 3 times. I found a spot that had the euro, the original, and I couldn't let it go. I could not let it go. So absolutely, man. But the great thing about Greece is that I found out, and I'm sure you've been to Greece, they have a lot of cats in Greece. It's a lot of cats. And I was like, why is it so many stranded cats out here? And they was like, hey man, this is their home too. So it's like, that's different. That was different for me too, just to see a lot of cats like that. So when I found out, that different people have different cultures and how they live there, it's like you have to accept that for what it is. It may be different for you, but this is how they live over here. So it was good just to learn that side of it too.
So were you able to experience like getting to Greece? Were you able to experience, seeing the Acropolis or seeing some of the historical parts of what they had there?
Yeah. We was in Athens, and I'll do this for you real quick while we're on. Show you this.
This is also inspiring when you're able to travel and experience these levels of, historical areas. I mean, that's some deep stuff that you're experiencing there to take on.
Can you see this?
Was that your view from your hotel?
No, that's my view in Athens, inside of the Acropolis.
And so there's the Acropolis there, yeah.
And you have that.
Boy, what I want people to understand is the fact that when you're going there and you're traveling, not only are you playing the gigs, which in itself is incredible, but you're also experiencing all this different culture of what they have. Look at that. This is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just there last year, just before COVID. And again, so I mean, that's also inspiring too, when you're experiencing a culture like that and then playing music. So Macy's doing this. She's sitting there, and you were with her for a couple of years.
Yeah, and so I was with Macy for a couple of years to 2014, and then right after that, I tapped into another genre of music, which was modern funk. And so 2015, I was able to go on tour with a guy named Dame Funk, and Dame Funk, man, he's like the George Clinton of the West Coast. He's like the P Funk of the West Coast. He started modern funk, and his music. It's funny because, like I said, I always tap back into my go-go roots. His funk music pocket was so deep and heavy. That's all I can think about was playing go-go again, but in a different style of music, And so to tap into that and see how they approach how the West Coast approach their hi-hat patterns is different than East Coast. Some of his hi-hat patterns and his accents and his hits and was different that you had to catch because that's what made the groove. You understand that's what made the form of the song. Like his different chokes or different taps or like I said, accents, hits on the hi-hats is what he paid attention to because he produced everything that we played. He plays drums, he plays keys, he sing, and it was a 3-piece band. Himself, the MD, which is bass player, and myself. It was like one of the funnest times I had working with an artist, man. And touring.
How incredible! So now you go. So are you starting to meet other musicians that are leading you towards other bands? How's this all network?
Yeah. So fun fact back to the Macy days, and it's gonna intertwine how I started working with Babyface too. Yeah. But how I got to start working with Dame Funk, the MD for Macy. So the bass player that I was just talking about with Dame Funk, he used to play with Macy. He was playing with Macy before me, and so the MD for Macy, he had called me to do a showcase with a different artist, and in the showcase that we were doing, the bass player that I was talking about, he was the bass player. So me and him had we meet for the first time. We connected, network and everything. And the day that we go do the showcase is at SIR out here in LA. And he said, "Hey man, I play at this gym down the street, and I play basketball. I love basketball. That's another thing that I do. I love playing ball." And he was like, "Hey man, I play at the YMCA right down the street." And literally, like on one of our breaks, right before the showcase, we walk down 2 blocks, go to the YMCA. He said, "Man, I'll be here tomorrow playing basketball." And literally the next day, I was like, "Yo, I will be here. I'll be here." And started from literally from that, and 6 years later, we started our whole friendship connection. And inside of that 6-year time span of me going to the gym, he was the MD for the guy Dame Funk, and the opportunity came again to where he knew I played drums, and he asked me if I want to do the gig, and yeah, that's how that came about.
So musicians start meeting, you start kind of, you kind of like, networking. How do you organize all this here? Are you an organized person? Do you write things down? Do you use your phone? How do you organize all this?
I do. A lot of times I try to write things down in my phone if I'm not by a pen or paper at the time, or I try to give myself a voice note, just as a reminder to kind of know, like, okay, let me write this down, because I have a calendar at my house where I write all my things down for the month, or ideas and notes that I normally try to accomplish in that month span, or week span rather. Yeah, I try to write a lot of things down in my phone, or like I said, a voice memo. But the other thing I was going to say was the fact that he did give me the opportunity to do the gig with Dame Funk. I think what also made me approach his music different was to know that like, not only funk is a pocket, and I see that as go-go, but like it makes you look at things more different than when you could just think like just chops all day. You understand what I'm saying? Or feels, And so to understand, like, you have to just play this for literally 3 minutes and don't do anything else. I was singing and playing too at the same time. So that was another thing I had to encounter. I was playing and I'm singing, and it's like, okay, I don't want to think about nothing else. Let me think about these lyrics, and let me think about this groove. You understand what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Wow. I mean, so this is, I love the intensity of your drive and your perseverance, and you're going along. So now you live it out in LA, you're meeting more musicians. What was the next act? What was the next step?
Before we get to the next act, I had an opportunity here in LA to start my own jam session. So I was hosting a jam session for 6 years in Culver City at a lounge called 77. And so much had happened in that time span of 2014 to literally last year, before our last time doing a jam session. I was doing it every Sunday. I hosted every Sunday for 4 years. 4 years straight, we was doing it every Sunday. And out of this opportunity, I formed my own band. So now I have a band called Loudest Funk. And
Loudest Funk,
yeah. And so before that, before we came Loudest Funk, we was called Triple Threat. And the reason we was called Triple Threat, because it was just a 3-piece: myself, a keyboard player, and an artist. Whichever artist that I will, ask to, one of my friends I would ask to sing that particular night on a Sunday. And so it literally, the band literally started out at 77, and it all came like a piece of puzzles, like puzzle pieces. Literally, the keyboard player came in, myself and the artist, and then the bass player came, guitar player came, and then the main singer, she came. But it all started at 77 Lounge. And one night we was all in there talking. We was like, well, we can't be called Triple Threat no more, because it's more than 3 of us now. So what are we gonna do? And mind you, it's a nice size lounge, but it's a little small petite lounge. But everybody used to love to come to this lounge. And so, long story short, we all in there talking, and we was like, yeah, man, what can we call ourselves? And the guitar player was like, man, well, we already in this little small lounge, and we play very loud. Like, we don't play with no dynamics. We should be called Loud as FUCK, right? And we was like, everybody started laughing. We was like, well, we can't say that. We can't say that. We can't go to a corporate gig or to a wedding or any other gig and say, now coming Loud as, that's not gonna work. So I was like, well, what if we say funk, Loud as Funk? And everybody was like, yeah. So that's how that came about. And now, Loudest Funk is a band that we're doing great things, man. And actually, we got a show, just to say why I'm on this. We have a show coming up this Saturday, March 20th. We're doing a drive-in concert, like a drive-in movie theater, but a drive-in concert. Yeah, nice. We're doing a drive-in concert this Saturday out here in LA.
Do you do any singing with that band?
I do. From time to time, but it's more so for our records, because we have records that we put out that I'm on, and then we're still working on different records, because we're planning on releasing an EP sometime this year.
Nice.
So that's the next thing that we're working on for sure.
Well, this whole thing, this drive-in concept, this is now, what's happening because of COVID. This is a great idea. People kind of drive their cars in. Where's it going to be held at?
It's going to be at the West Fashion Square Mall in Sherman Oaks, California, which is like right, not too far off the 101. If you're familiar with the LA area, anybody listening, or you for yourself, You want to tell some friends, it's right here in LA in the Valley, at the Westfields Fashion Mall in Sherman
Boy,
Oaks.
fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. That really is great. So the band, so doing some singing. I got a question here. There are several people that have joined on here, which is so great.
Hey.
Will Dorsey's here. Mark Bennett joined us. Oh my gosh, look at these guys here. Brandon Turner Speed is here from Columbia, South Carolina. Tony Artemisi is here. Carlos Gutzman, who's a phenomenal another player. Manny Dominic is here. Bruno Muse, a wonderful drummer from Antwerp, Belgium, is here. So we got some people from all around the world here. I want to go to a question from Carlos here. Carlos Gutzman is a phenomenal drummer and also a phenomenal drum tech down in the Miami area. And he's drum tech for everyone. Jerry Brown, Max Weinberg, and he joins us all the time. He's got some great questions. He says, since you also sing as part of your career profession, do you approach playing drums behind other vocalists differently?
It's a good question.
Interesting, yeah.
That's a great question.
Also, do vocalists come to you after a performance and compliment you on how you play behind them? Because if you're that sensitive to them, so what happens with that? How do you play behind vocalists now differently?
Yeah. So I was fun fact and funny story. So Aaron Spears was like one of my mentors when I was young. I've known Aaron since I was a young man. Yeah. And I used to fill in for Aaron when Aaron first started playing with Usher in the early mid 2000s, whenever that was, like 2005, 2006, we started playing with Usher. I used to fill in for him at his church. And I'll never forget, one Sunday we go out to eat. He's in town, we go out to eat, and we're listening to a Michael Jackson song. You know the song that says, Mama say, Mama sa, Mama husa, Mama say, Mama sa, Mama husa. And I'll never forget, he said, listen to what he's saying. And when next time you're on drums, play to that lyrics. Use the lyrics as approach to like play as like you're playing with an artist. So ever since then, I started listening to what artists would sing, and I would start listening to more of the lyrics, and then I would like accent certain words that they would say, and I would actually feel around that verse or the chorus, like knowing like, okay, let me maybe accent this or play this here. So it's always different when I listen to different artists, you know, or I'm playing with different artists, because I try to pin out and look at key points of what certain words that they will probably like an accent to, a splash, a setup, you know, whatever that is, to help them feel like they're getting that point across more to the crowd, you know, and not them just singing it, but the drummer has embellished and helped with that particular sound or that particular lyric to, you know, so that's yeah. So yes, I do. I approach it very differently, and I listen to, you know, what they're singing about, so I can know how to approach it. Good question, Carlos. I like that.
Carlos, good man. He always pulls them out of his hat, man, for sure. Thank you, Carlos. You're going along. So just during this pandemic, what has happened during this pandemic? You've been kind of off. What have you been doing during this time?
So, like I said, with my band, we was able to get in maybe like the second quarter of the pandemic to start getting back to the studio to finish up our EP. So besides we were doing some recording, I've been actually in the studio working with some other artists as well, with some producers when that time was allowed. So, but my main focus, man, and I wish I would have started this maybe 5-10 years ago, but I've been heavily into stocks. You know, stocks is a thing that I really picked up in the middle of this pandemic, and just really like, because math was my favorite subject in school, so numbers, you know, for me was kind of secondary. So it was like, okay, let me get into this, you know. But besides stocks, I picked up piano, playing more piano, had some piano lessons, and I was teaching some young students drums, you know, and just trying to tap into more things that I still love to do, besides traveling and playing with different artists that I still can do inside of being in LA. So, yeah, man.
Well, that's fantastic. So let's talk about the teaching end of it, because you also have done, you know, a lot of mentoring to young kids, and you really kind of you really understand about giving back, which I think is pretty powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah, I started from an age range, like some people were like, how can you do 3 years old? I started from like 3 to like 15, but it was like, you know, I want them to understand, like, you should start kind of early with somebody showing you. And so I know for kids, I would actually approach it different, because I'm like, what would keep a kid's attention? So I would like try to do stuff with colors and like different color cards, you know, because they used to seeing different colors, you know what I'm saying? So I would wrap the drumsticks in like green or blue or red, whatever it is, because they like different colors. So for me, it was like that's approach it this way for a 3-year-old, and then for 7-year-old, it was like, okay, they're a little older. So I would like, what's your favorite song to listen to? So let's start there. Let's literally listen down to your favorite song, and let's practice this song until you feel comfortable with it. You know, so I had different approaches for different age brackets of people that I was teaching, because I had people who was 20 and 21, you know, and had students in Japan as well. So I would do some Skype lessons when Skype was a thing before Zoom, you know, and so I would do things like that as well. So yeah, I would just have different regiments for different age brackets of students that I would teach.
Well, I want anyone listening, and as this is, you know, goes on to Facebook and continues on, I want everyone to understand that this really is about, what's so great about it is it's about the understanding of, you know, sharing your information. And I want people to contact you. If they want any information, let them contact you and go for it. Absolutely.
Please do. Please
you
do.
know?
Absolutely. I would love to have more students and teach what I know, or teach what I've been taught, and teach what I'm still learning, you know, because I'm always learning. Always.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some of the other acts that you were in, because then you went on, you had Jennifer Holiday, I mean, Melissa Etheridge, you know, Pete and Peter Escovedo. So, I mean, you know, there's a wide variety of different, you know, playing styles that you got in. How did all that come about?
So I used to do a lot of corporate gigs. I used to do a lot of corporate gigs here in LA. And one of the corporate bands that I was with, called Live 61, we would do a lot of corporate shows with a lot of different artists. And these artists would be from Terry Nunn to the Rembrandts. We had let me see, Tommy Two-Tone, Skip Martin. All these different artists is all in this corporate band that I'm playing with. They're like featured artists. So, but we're playing all their original music, you know. And so, for me to like have to learn that, and from a corporate standpoint, but also learn it for the artists, is like, this is the different genres that I wanted to do, you know, and not just be in a box of playing this genre. You know, I wanted to tap into different things, and this opportunity gave me that opportunity to actually play with these different artists. So, yeah. It was the corporate world who gave me opportunities to play with these great artists. But Melissa Etheridge, I did a studio session with her. I'm on one of her records. So I was in, that was one of the artists I was actually in the studio with.
How did that come about?
With one of the producers that I work with. He called us. He worked with countless artists, and one day he called us and said, "Hey guys, we got a session with Melissa Etheridge. Can you guys make it?" And what do you think I'm going to say? No. Yeah, so we made it happen, man. And she was a great person. You know, of course we know that she's a very great singer, but just to be around her and just to hear her stories and to hear how she came up with the song that we was actually recording, it was amazing.
Absolutely. What an incredible, you know, opportunity that you are, you know, because of how you carry yourself, how professional you are, how well you speak, how honest you are, and just your sheer humility. Those are all great qualities. I want people to realize that that's what's needed to be successful.
Absolutely. It's you keep hitting points, man, that I want to follow up with. And I say, you know, working with Babyface now, and I know we haven't got there, but
yeah,
and like working with the artists that you've mentioned already, like the key aspect of why I love working with him, because he's a cool person off of stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he instills that, and you can tell it's not a fake, it's not a facade. He's not just pretending like that's who he genuinely is. You know what I mean? And so for him to be who he is as a musician, but it's better for him to be the person that he is, and that's the person that I'm getting to know off when we're not working. So it speaks volumes that you say that, because that's the type of person that, you know, not that I try to be, but it's just like that's how I always been. So it's like, I understand that you have to have a separation off your gift and then when you own your gift. You know what I mean? And so many musicians, they get caught up in that, man. And I'm like, if it wasn't for social media, like what would it be? Because I was around before social media got really popping. You know what I mean? Like before Instagram was Facebook, Twitter, any of these things. Like you had to go out and network. You had to go out and actually play so people could know what you actually do, and they could also get to know how you are off of social media. You know what I mean? So that's what I'll say to what you said. So yes, I commend you saying that.
Well, you can easily see. Just last night was the Grammys, and Babyface was there, and he just was just so gracious at how he is. So how'd that gig come about? How'd the Babyface gig come about?
Okay, so now we have to go back to the story I was telling you about earlier with the showcase. I was talking about the showcase with the artists. So long story short, the other musician was the bass player I was telling you about, but the guitar player, he was the MD for Babyface. Oh, so the MD for Mace was the keyboard player. The guitar player, he was the MD for Babyface, but it wasn't for Babyface. It was for another artist that he was working with over in Denmark. The artist was from Denmark. And this was like in, I want to say 2014. And so we always maintained a relationship. I was literally strictly there for that artist. I knew he was the MD for Babyface. I never brought it up like, hey man, if an opportunity come around, you to please remember me for the audition for Babyface. Always kept professional. I did my job, learned the music, played the show. Years later, have you heard about Jam Card? You know about Jam Card?
Yeah.
So Jam Card, when they first had it up in the house in the hills, we was there for they used to have one night of music, and then the next night they would show you all of the the breakdown in the sessions. It was a guy, he literally showed you here everything in Pro Tools, each part from like Michael Jackson sessions, Quincy Jones. He had all these things he would break down. So long story short, the guy Nomad, he's there one night, and we actually reconnect after 3 or 4 years of not seeing each other after this showcase. So I see him at this Jam Card event, and we connect again. And he gives me his business card. He said, hey man, and me being in LA, I've been in LA for 2009. At this point, I've been in here 10, 11 years. And so he tells me, like, next day I'm going to call you. I'm like, nah, he ain't gonna call me. I heard that plenty of times. I'm not even going to think about it. He actually calls me, but it's not for Babyface. It's for another artist again. So we were rehearsing for one of the artists that we was working with, and it came up in one of the rehearsals one day. He said, "Hey man, Babyface has some gigs coming up at the top of this month next year. I want to see if you're available for it." And again, what am I gonna say? No. So I'm like, yeah, and so I had to go, but this time I actually had to go audition. I did audition for him. I thought, when I did audition, and Babyface, like he has a real poker face that you can't break through to understand, like if he likes it or if he doesn't. So he has this stern face on. I'm like, okay, am I doing good? Am I doing right? So anyway, now to say that I did audition, he liked what he heard. And the rest is history. And I've been with him since 2018, and it's now yeah. So that's how that came about.
That really is magical to understand. And you're out there playing and doing it. So let's talk about for a second those Mapex drums behind you. Woo! Which kit is that you have there?
So this is the Saturn Evolution. This is one of the new kits that we just came out with. But I have the specs. A 10 by 7, 12 by 8, and a 16 by 14, and a 20 by 16 kit. I didn't tell you that earlier. It was a 20 by 16 kit.
20 by 16 kit. Interesting.
20 by 16. So my first kit that I got from Mapex, which is my guy Joe Hibbs, that I want to also talk about. He was the one who signed me on, and that's my guy. But my first kit I got from Mapex was the Armory, was the green Armory kit that I got through Mapex, and now I have a couple different kits. I said that because that's a 22. Then I have a Horizon, and I have the V drums, which are both 18-inch kicks, which I was using more for down gigs, for less travel and less on your back. So I got an 18-inch kick for those purposes, and then I want to get a 20. So now I have an 18, 20, and a 22. And this baby right here, I'm falling in love every day. I'm playing, recording. Doing something on it, it just sounds amazing. So I have birch rack toms, and then I have a maple floor and kick, which is correct.
This is what I want people to understand, because evolution comes in birch and or maple, but you made the mixture of it, which I want you to explain why you did that.
Now the reason I did that, because I never had birch toms. I never had any birch toms, but I knew that my armory kit was maple, and I love how the floor tom sound and how the kick sound. So I wanted that 100% maple. But talking to Mark Bennett, our guy on here, he was I knew how birch tom sounded. I knew how they sounded, but I never had any for my personal use. You know, so I was like, well, can I change some things? He was like, yeah, let's see if we can make it happen. And so we made it happen, and I'm glad I did because, you know, my armory kit is maple, but these two birch toms, two birch rack toms are singing. They're really singing, and they sound warm like how I thought they would. But you know, it's amazing, man. It's amazing, beautiful new kit, and I'm excited about it. And I also, you can't see the snare, but that's the shadow, the Black Panther shadow that I have.
Black Panther shadow.
Yeah, the Black Panther shadow.
What a,
6.5
what
by
a
14.
great, it's what a great snare that is, right? Just how it pops. You can tune that thing low, you can tune it high, and it's still fat.
Absolutely, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. It's a beautiful addition to the new kit. I felt like Christmas came a little early this year for me, and I'm very happy about it.
Well, you know, you mentioned Mark Bennett, who is, you know, one of the guys behind the scenes, Jeff Mulvihill, Rick DeYoung. These guys are the people behind the whole Mapex energy. What they're just great people. But you also mentioned someone that we lost, Joe Hibbs, who had just an incredible understanding of how to seek out great talent. Joe and I were friends for over 40 years. And Joe passed away about 5-6 years ago, and way too young. But he had an eye for talent, and we talked about it, man. He said, man, we got to get Reggie in the family him, because when he heard you playing, he was blown away.
Yeah, so it's funny you said that, because I wanted to kind of tap in how I met Joe.
Yeah.
I met Joe at South by Southwest, and I was working with an artist named Jessica Childress at the time. And do you know another Mapex artist named Bruce Briggs?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So Bruce was doing the gig, and I was feeling that's one of my close friends, and I was subbing for him, and he couldn't do the gig, so we was going to South by Southwest. And Joe was there. The whole Mapex team was there, because they did the back line for all the venues that we played at, and they had, you know, Mapex everywhere. And before I said how I met Joe, the funny thing is, before I even got with Mapex, my first snare was a 5.5 by 14 gold diecast hoop Black Panther cherry wood snare that I got from Washington Music, Chuck Levins in Maryland.
I knew Chuck Levin. What a legend he was. Yeah.
And so I bought that snare, and I used that snare on the tour, that 2008 Italy tour with Ernest Pugh.
Wow.
So I've always liked how they made snares, like from the Black Panthers. Like that was like one of my favorite line of snares. So now back to how I met Joe. I just had to throw that in there because I just want you to know. Before I started playing, I had a Mapex snare forever, and I still have it to this day. But anyway, I met Joe at South by Southwest, and like you said, he took a liking to me. We went out to eat, and it's like it was one of those things where it was like it wasn't even about drums, man. It was just about it was about our relationship of how what we talked about, and then drums came like secondary, and that's what I knew I was making the right decision to be with a drum company, because it was like he wanted to get to know who I was first, you know, and instead of like, oh yeah, so you know, I see you play our drums. Like, what do you like about them? It was like that came afterwards. Like after we had a couple of drinks and eat, and then he got to know me, and I'm getting to know him. And it was like, you know, that's what really made me understand the type of person that Joe was. You know,
Joe was deep into the kind of, he wanted to get to know the core values of the person first. That was what impressed Joe so much. But what dinner was that? He knew how to eat too, so you went out and had a nice dinner, right?
Absolutely. Hey, we had a great time in Austin, Texas. I tell you, boy, that was it was a great fun time to be with Joe Hibbs and the KHS family back then, man. It was just some good memories, and you know, I think I didn't mention this to you at the Artist Summit, but I had wrote down a legacy and to what I think legacy means to me, that what Joe Hibbs was, and I made it out of an acronym, and so the legacy is the word, but then I said L for left. He left every good achievement that created or creates you, and that's what that means. That's what Joe Hibbs' legacy means to me. Like he left every good achievement that created or creates you to this day. You know what I mean? So the opportunity that he gave me to be with Mapex and to still be a standing family is like he made that happen. But it started from a conversation of getting to know who I was first before he wanted to be like, okay, let's see if you really want to play these drums, you know, because it was like I was back then I was playing DW, you know, and I could have tried to get with DW Yamaha or anybody else. But like I said, when I had my first snare with that Black Panther, and then I already knew, you know, about Mapex drums, and back then Mapex drums wasn't what they are now.
Yeah.
Mapex has done a whole turnaround, and I'm happy that I was able to see that process. You know what I'm saying? To see where it was to where we're heading now. You know what I mean? And we're doing some great things. So I'm just happy that, you know, I'm a part of the family, man.
Boy, it's so great to see you, Reg, because I've been with this company now for well over 20, 25 years, and to see them change and grow and develop has been so exciting. And to have you aboard has been an incredible addition, you know, out of the vision of Joe Hibbs, out of the great support that Mapex continues to give you. You have earned this. You really have earned this. I think Linda Powell says it great. DC is in the house.
Absolutely, baby. Our family is here. I see everybody online, from my mom, my aunt, Linda, everybody. Hey, man,
fantastic.
We strong in DC. I love it.
Reg, well, I'll tell you something. I want to go back. Your YouTube channel is Reggie Reg 131. I want people to go there and check that out and subscribe to Reggie's YouTube channel. Your website is reggieregjohnson.com.
Yes, sir.
People to go there and check out what you have there too. Facebook is the same, Reggie Reg. Instagram is Reggie Reg J.
Mm-hmm.
And the Twitter account is Reg31.
Yes, sir.
So I want people to go there, sign on, and track down Reg for lessons, for intensity, for motivation. Absolutely.
Well, before we sign off, I also want you to know this is my brand and my logo, right? And it stands for Reggie Reg Johnson, but it stands for rhythm, relate, and join. So when you have the rhythm, you can relate and you can join to it, man. So man, inside my logo. Just be on the lookout, because I'm doing something real nice with that real soon. So
good. Well, R squared J, man, I love that. Just show the logo on your shirt there too. Just show that there too.
There we go, baby.
Look at that.
With the glasses and the sticks in the background, have the established year. You can order this stuff too. I have it for sale. I have t-shirts, I have hats, I have masks. You know, that's another thing that I've been doing in the middle of the pandemic, Dom. You know, really focusing on my brand. I already had it before then, but like really had to focus it and sit down and come up with some more ideas and things like that to really, you know, push it. Yes, absolutely.
You do some marketing and branding then with all that stuff there too.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And you can get all that from your website.
From our website. Yep. It's under yes.
.com.
Hit me up. Yes, sir. That's it.
Reg, fantastic, man. Reggie, RegJohnson.com. Go there. All the information is there, man. Pick up some of the swag that he has, man. It's some good branding. Fantastic. Reg, listen, you are an absolute gentleman at what you're doing, man. I wish you the best of success. Keep going. Stay safe.
Yes,
and
sir.
Thank you so much on behalf of Mapex All Access. You have done fantastic. And I look forward to seeing you again in person.
Yes, sir. Always, Dom. It's a pleasure, and I'm excited to see where we lead in the future. Team Mapex all the way, baby. Mapex Access, Dom Famularo, sign off.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Reg.